You know what movie I was watching recently, and I swear to God, the character, and don't take this the wrong way, but he came off kind of gay. Hal in 2001.
Oh, well, yes. Well, that's always kind of been a subtext in it.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, just...
He gets very jelly.
His manner, yeah.
His manner.
Yeah, his manner.
I thought I was the only one to see this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, if people don't remember, I mean, first of all, what is your interpretation of that whole movie? That would be a great one to ask that. I mean, at the beginning, we see the apes. And by the way, I watched it fairly recently, it's so obvious that they're men in ape costume.
Yeah.
I guess we would do that differently today. Although I don't know how you would get the apes to actually do the things that the director wanted them to do. It's hard enough to get the actors to do what you want them to do. Am I right? Okay. But the apes, yes, they're obviously men in ape suits.
But those are pretty good ape suits, though.
They're pretty good apes. I agree. They're pretty good. Yeah,
but I don't mind that, though.
I don't mind it either. It's 1960.
But in that instance particular, that does not break me out of
Not at all. Okay, it's 1968. Yeah. I agree. So, okay, the first 20 minutes of the movie is the apes. First, they're just doing ape shit, but they don't seem to be like, going ape shit about anything. Then the monolith comes. This is the big thing. I remember my mother and father talking about it when I was 12 years old. They're like debating, which is what you want in your household. Your parents,
yeah, absolutely,
debating art.
Yeah.
And they were like, the monolith, but you couldn't, by the way, in 1968, go on the internet and say, "What are people saying about this?" You had to know what you were saying about it.
Well, no, but I'll something that I don't know if your parents did, but my parents did it, and I think a lot of people our age, their parents did it. Is my parents had bridge night.
Oh, my father was a big bridge player.
And so, so all of a sudden, it was like 2 or 3 couples would show up at the house.
Right.
And they would play bridge. And, it was made pretty clear. Okay, no, this is not the time for you to be fucking around. No, the adults are going to be doing their thing.
Right.
And you can come and say hello, but we're doing our thing.
Exactly.
And during that playing a bridge, they would talk about 2001 or anything that was interesting going on at the time.
Yes. All right. So back to the agitated apes. The monolith comes down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
then the question becomes, and it's a question. It's not an answer. It's a question. Is that technology or is that spirituality?
Well, it's what I don't know, but what it definitely is something from not Earth.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because there's nothing like...
Again, but is it a spiritual thing? Is it a technological thing?
I think it's a technological thing, because the next scene...
Okay, well, I agree with that. Theoretically, I agree with that, but it's a slab.
Okay, it's a slab, but they didn't have slabs back in the ape days. They just had like rocks and wood.
That's
this
true.
Is like smooth and
but
shiny.
I would think if I was going to try to sell technology, I might have a few working parts.
But okay, they also find the monolith. Remember, like a few scenes later, when they go to the moon, and the monolith.
Okay, well now you're trying to tie it together like it's a movie that has a story, and it doesn't.
It kind of does.
Well, no, it has a.
Okay, well let's go through it.
It has a theme, and it has.
Well, no. Let's go through it. Maybe you don't remember. So first, we have agitated apes.
Yeah.
The monolith comes down. They seem to get different after the monolith. First of all, they certainly learn how to use tools, because you see the guy, the ape, hammering with the bone. He's got a big femur in his hand, and he's like, okay, so we see he's learned how to like do things with technology, and he throws the bone up in the air. It becomes the spacecraft. Yeah. Iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there's like a scene where the doctor dude is talking to people, and it's like, oh, there's some trouble on blah, blah, blah. It's very vague. And then they go to the moon, and there's the monolith again.
Yeah. And
the monolith emits a piercing sound, and they go like this with their space helmets on, which I don't think would do anything if you had a space helmet on.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what that means.
But it's actually curious while you're describing it, is the apes respond to the sound, but they don't respond to the sound that way. It's not like, oh, they can't handle it.
The apes don't hear sound.
No, when it goes, whoa, when they touches it and they go, whoa, oh, they respond to the wah.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
But It's a different sound. It's like,
Right.
it's not, they're not going, "Ah!"
They're not going like this, right? So I don't know why the monolith was doing that on the moon. I don't know why the monolith at all. And then we cut to they're on the thing going to Jupiter. It's like Jupiter mission 18 months later. And that's where we have the famous Hal, I can't do that. One of the astronauts goes out to do a spacewalk to fix something. There's something wrong. We've seen this in other movies.
Yeah.
And Hal will not let him back in, and he dies out there in outer space.
I think.
And Hal is bitchy.
Look,
Hal is a little bitch.
it's one of the questions of cinema.
Hello, thank you for calling Gigo! Come on, Miyuki, watch where you're throwing those things!
Questions of cinema. Look,
Hal is a little bitch.
it's one of the questions of cinema. It's one of the reasons that you can say that there's a brilliance to, if not Arthur C. Clarke's novel, but to Stanley Kubrick's movie. He seems to ignore everything about drama, except just enough rope with knots in it
You're so right.
to connect you to the next knot, to the next knot, to the next knot.
You're right.
And a case
Yes.
can be made that when the movie loses it, when it gets more metaphysical at the end, is when he stops supplying knots that are
Right.
narrative.
Yeah, you're right.
And the knots don't need to connect to each other. They just need to get you forward.
And they do.
And
You're right.
and they do.
Like it's, yeah. I mean, like there's a very interesting scene where he's watching the news from home. They say there's a 7-minute delay, but thanks to editing, and they're interviewing Hal. It's like our spaceship here going to Jupiter. And what year must this be? I mean, Jupiter is a really long trip. And what do you do when you get there?
Yeah.
It's not like you can land on it. Anyway, we're talking to our astronauts who are going to Jupiter, and 2 of them are in suspended animation. They apparently had that back then.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are around.
Oh, I had that from Planet of the Apes. I'm all good.
Yeah.
I understood that.
And then we're going to also talk to Hal. Hal is the HAL 9000 computer, and
Which,
Hal
by the way,
is
this
like
show,
another crew member.
This show is
And
very
then-
much like Entertainment Tonight, but for like but for
Well,
astronauts.
No, it's a nightly news. This is a big news.
No, but
story.
it's done as if it's Entertainment Tonight. It has, and he's listening to it like he's listening to his report on Entertainment
right,
Tonight.
he's eating his like space food, which
Yeah.
is like compartmentalized, but he's watching it on the news. Now, I thought it was very BBC, and they're trying to do it straight.
I thought it was
And then-
very much like
Okay.
you've done Angie, and you're watching the Entertainment Tonight special on
Yeah.
Angie, and here comes your guy.
Yeah, well, that's what you think because you've probably smoked too much pot. Anyway, I thought it was more like the BBC. And anyway, he is interviewing, and then the guy interviews Hal. And Hal, again, is like, I don't remember this from the first time I watched it, but when I saw it recently, I was like, wow, how is to be this prescient in 1968 about what we are absolutely talking about today? AI in 2024,
Wow.
like how that's exactly what we're talking about now. Are the computers taking over? And when they do, will they be this bitchy?
Okay,
Because the computer is such a bitch. And a little, like, everything is like, at the end, like, like, Dave, I'm sorry, I can do better. I made some poor decisions. It's like a relationship fight they're having with a fucking computer.
Here's the thing that I think you kind of nailed without nailing it.
My specialty.
That was such a fucking passive-aggressive compliment. I apologize. I really don't agree with shit like that, but that kind of was that. I apologize.
Oh, please.